So you can be sure that we looked at all of them, and they looked at us, and John snatched me up. And we were married at the end of my furlough year in 1978, right here. Then we went to Gatab together as a couple. It's in northern Kenya. It's up in the bush, no electricity, and just really country living, and loved it. Had our children, and enjoyed serving God in different ministries in that setting.
I really enjoyed learning Swahili. My mind kind of works that way, and so I enjoyed interacting with the nationals. We did theological education by extension, a simple Swahili lesson, so I learned more as I was teaching them, and it was interesting to interact with them and see where they were in the Word and what they really understood. I guess. Then I got more and more involved in the running of the dispensary, and so I was also doing the accounting. Of course, that fit my mind as well. Everything that's nice and orderly, I can handle really well. And so I enjoyed learning all these things, especially the interaction with the nationals. And wherever I would stop, we would travel around to different places, and wherever I would stop, there'd be a missionary, and of course, I just enjoy working with my hands and stuff, so I learned how to weld, I learned how to build blocks, and what else did I do? All kinds of, whatever the missionary needed help with, I enjoyed pitching in. So I was a busy little boy.
We thoroughly enjoyed 2 terms at Gatab. It was a delight to be there. But when we came home for our home assignment in 1986, we couldn't go back, and we had to change assignments. So in the process of healing and gaining strength, and the Lord sent us to the home office in New York at that time. And we just counted it a blessing from the Lord that He would continue to use us in different ways, ways that we didn't really have pictured. You know, when you're young, you think you're going to do this for the rest of your life. And I was always going to teach school to missionary kids, and the Lord just has ways of moving us where He wants us to be. So we started our work in the home office in '89. And you know, it was beautiful. I just counted it such a blessing that during our furlough year was the year that God took my dad. And I was so grateful to have that time with my father. We were on the West Coast for a little bit of that time, but near the end we were home with him. And our kids, they have a vague memory of Grandpa Metzger. They were young, but they knew he loved them. And so it was just a special gift from God that He gave us, even in the midst of all this other little turmoil of where we were going to serve. He gave us that blessing. So we moved to Pearl River, New York. Not anywhere near like Africa. And yet He placed us in places to serve that fit us, and we loved it. We really enjoyed it. However, in 95 and 96, God had another little twist for us.
I have to go back a bit.
Oh, sorry.
83 to 86, I noticed I just was not feeling quite enthusiastic anymore. And I seemed to be tired a lot. And I was go away a lot with the nurses, and so we were sleeping in different places, and sometimes it was hard for me to sleep. And I found out after we moved down to Peachtree City in 2012, I have sleep apnea. So all this time, I was having trouble sleeping and waking up tired. You know, you just deal with it and you carry on. And so it just explained a lot to me why I was tired all the time. And so that was encouraging when I got down there. But it affected the way I saw the ministry, and just started getting tired and just not enthusiastic. And in those days, there wasn't anyone you could go to and talk to like there is now. There's a whole counseling center for AIM. And so anyways, part of our reason for staying home was the struggles I was having. But before we left, I also started to I'd go down to the people's houses at night and meet with the older men and their families and just talk about God's Word and you know, how they understood that. And I enjoyed that as well. Anytime I had to talk with the old men and kind of get a grasp of the stories that they have and try and come up with the redemptive analogies that might be in the culture. I remember starting to tell this group of guys out in the bush this story about how God gave the Samburu all the cows, and someone came along and they cut the rope between God and man. And so there was no longer this direct communication. And they were all surprised, and they said, how did you know that story? And so that would pique their interest, and then I was able to explain the gospel from there, how God was able to reconnect through Jesus. So those are the fun parts of flying around into different places. And I enjoyed being a dad with two little guys running around. I just really enjoyed being a dad to two little guys. It's good fun. Where are we now?
Kurungu.
Kurungu. Well, got to go back a little bit more.
I rushed ahead, I'm sorry.
After I was ready to submit my resignation with AIM because I couldn't go back to be a pilot, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had it all written out, but before I got it mailed, we got a phone call from the home office, like Pam mentioned. They said, hey, you want to come work in the home office? And after being there for a while, I was just so grateful that God had given me such joy in aviation. And then I started to work in the computer department, and I started learning all about computers. And the guy in charge of the computer department gave 2 weeks' notice. And so they said, oh, we think John can do this. And so it was a lot of on-the-job training, and that's where I kind of ended up for the last many years. Just retired. And I'm just so grateful that all that the Lord has given me to do, I have enjoyed, and has been, well, I did not hate going to work. And it's just fun to be able to do what I did well, and knew it was helping spread the gospel, just helping the missionaries out on the field.
In 95 and 96, the Lord took us to Kurungu. It was the same people group. Actually, we had some friends, and they wrote and said, we need to go on home assignment. How would you like to come for a year? And we said, oh, that would be fun. So sure enough, the Lord provided for us. Our children were in 6th and 8th grade at the time. And we went and babysat this little mission station. It was the same people group, but lower down, more on the, not on the mountaintop, but down below. And we had such a good year. The kids went to RVA, and they loved it. They just loved boarding school. In fact, Andrew liked it so well in 8th grade. When he got to 11th grade, he goes, you know, Mom, I want to graduate from Rift Valley Academy. And I said, well, I guess if you can make it happen, you can do it. Now, that was kind of a silly thing for me to say, because my son is very determined, and so he started the process, and he made it happen. So, Mom, who do you know at RVA? Well, I had a lot of friends at RVA because that's where I served. So he wrote the principal, and the principal said, well, you can't board. There's too many kids who want to board. You have to stay in a home. Mom, do you know anybody who would let me stay in their house? And I said, oh, I don't know. Well, wouldn't you know it, that week some missionary friends came who lived at RVA, and Andrew says, so, would you like a son for a year? And they said, yes, we would. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's just go a little slow here. You better talk to your children. You better see if they want somebody else living in your house. Anyway, it all worked out. Andrew loved it, and he graduated from RVA. But this year at Kurungu, it's hard to imagine living in the city, but if you've been camping or somewhere where there are no lights, and you look up at the sky and it is just full of stars, and a full moon is so bright you don't need a flashlight. Those evenings at Kurungu were just gorgeous. And John would go and sit by the fire with the men and swap stories and tell about Jesus. And we did building on firm foundations with a couple of villages, little smaller villages in the area. And God just blessed our time. It was lonely. We were the only missionaries. However, we were on the road to go up north. So all of our old friends, when they would go home, would stop by our house, stay a while, and then go, continue on their way. So it was a beautiful year for us. We said we also were going on home assignment because we went home for a year. And then we came back to Pearl River, and the Lord arranged it for us to be able to fit right back into our jobs. They left our jobs for us. Someone came for a year to work in the computers, and I moved into receipting. The kids were older, and there was an opening in the receipting department, and that's when I started to work full-time at the office. I'd worked part-time and worked in the kids' programs and did some other things for them, but that was when I had a real job. Yeah. And then came December of 2022.
Back at Kurungu, like Pam said, I would go with my helper to preaching places and we would do building on firm foundations. And one of the highlights for me was on the way back from one of them, the helper was talking to another old man who was walking with him, and he was repeating a lesson to him, in Samburu. And I thought, okay, obviously this guy's listening. And it was just really encouraging for me to have him get it all and be able to start explaining it to someone else. I was really encouraged with that. And also one day, this guy he had tuberculosis, and it turned out he actually had just gone off his medicine, and he was sick. And so we went up, and they wanted to know if we could do anything. I said, there's really nothing I can do. The best thing I can do for you is to pray for you. So I just prayed for him, and the next morning, someone came to the door, and our helper translator said, "This guy wants to know if you called for help." I said, "No, I didn't call for help." Did you contact anybody? And I said, "No, I didn't contact anybody. I just left them." And he said, "Well, the chief came by in his vehicle, found this guy, picked him up, and he's on his way to the city with where the tuberculosis clinic was." And he says, he wants to know how this happens when you pray in the name of Jesus. And I said, "Oh, it's just the way it works." Or what can you say? And so that encouraged me that they saw a specific answer to prayer, and they attributed it to Jesus. So those little things just keep encouraging me that things are happening, even though you might not. So you just be faithful to what you're supposed to do. And where are we again? We're back in the home office. What's that?
We're retiring.
We're retiring. Oh. Well, yeah, anyway, when we got back, we went through 3 different data transitions to new programs, and that was always a challenge. But the missionaries always kept getting paid, and everybody was really happy that kept happening. So, and technology changed, and then just as I started getting excited about some of the new technology, making a phone app, it was time to retire. So I didn't get to delve into that. And we're still unsure about how to tackle this retirement thing. Everyone has different ideas, and we retired in December, and a couple weeks into January, they said we were asked if we wanted to go back to Rift Valley Academy for 3 months for the last term. They needed an IT person, and so we did. And the Lord provided funds for us, and it took us a long time to get ready. Just all kinds of paperwork, doctor's appointments, and shots and stuff, and it took up a lot of our time. And when I got there, I was supposed to work with 2 national workers, and because they had been there with the regular IT guy. And a week after I was there, one of them died. he had an operation shortly after we got there, and then he had other complications. So I just had an awful lot to learn, apart from what he was responsible for. It was totally different than what I was doing in the home office. But I was able to grasp it, and there was a lot of, okay, Lord, what do I do here? And a lot of, oh, okay, thanks. So I was really grateful to be able to pick things up and do what they expected of me and to finish well. So, what did you do?
You know, they really wanted John. They kind of just took me as part of the package. It was really fun for me to go back to Kenya, and especially to Rift Valley Academy. I called it my bookend, because I started there and I finished there. So although a lot had changed, a lot was the same. And I felt right at home. The roads and just how everything worked, it was just a blessing to me. I was the extra hands in the 9th grade sewing class, boys and girls. We made gym bags. I think out of the 20 students, only one will never be used. But the other ones turned out pretty good. Some of my students were grandchildren of my coworkers way back when. So I would go around the room and I would look at the last names. And I would go, oh, I bet your dad is Eddie Anderson. Yeah. I said, I knew him when he was 5. Yeah, I know. Obviously, Dad had gotten to him and told him, you better behave for this lady. Anyway, it was a lot of fun for me. Then, during the 3rd term at RVA, they have a banquet, a junior-senior banquet, and this would be, I think, equivalent to the prom here. The juniors put it on for the seniors. It's a very formal event. They have totally transformed a room. This year it was the Hobbit. So they walked into where they were going to have dinner, where the junior parents had prepared for everyone. The junior parents had helped them get the room together. Anyway, my part of all of this big hoopla of a day was to fix the girls' dresses. So they would WhatsApp me, you know, Mrs. Wollman, can you fix my dress? And I fixed one dress one week, and I thought, oh, I guess everybody got their dress fixed, you know?